Hey guys, today we're going to look at the home front. So, what is happening in the US during World War I? So, at the start of this war, we have a very low number of soldiers that are a part of the US Army. We have 200 soldiers. So, the United States is really going to need to increase enlistment, recruit soldiers to support the war effort. But they weren't getting enough volunteers in order to support the war. So, Congress is going to pass the Selective Service Act in May 1917. What the Selective Service Act is going to say is that all men between the ages of 21 and 30 were required to register for military service. What would then happen is the government would kind of do a draft poll, a lottery to figure out who would be enlisted and told to join into the Army. By the end of the war, we're going to have over 4.5 million men who are going to serve. 11,000 American women are also going to help support. 400,000 African Americans are also going to be pulled through this draft, through the Selective Service Act, creating a much larger military base than what we had before the war is going to start. In order to get a lot of support, the government is also going to create the Committee on Public Information. So this is going to just be like propaganda machine. There's going to be a committee led by George Creel, and he is going to come up with so many different ways to raise support for enlistment, for funding, for people just to want to support this war instead of remaining neutral like we were when the war first broke out. So this is going to be the committee that comes up with the song Over There, and other patriotic songs to get people to increase in their patriotic and nationalism sentiments. We also have a lot of propaganda posters that are going to come out, similar to the ones that we looked at in class. We're also going to have what we call 4-minute men. This is going to be just a bunch of public speakers who go out across the nation who are going to give short but really strong, powerful 4-minute speeches out in public areas just to try to spread the word in any way possible. This is going to help raise the nationalism feelings, engage millions of Americans to support the war effort financially and enlisting, to really create that war machine that we need in order to succeed. But not everyone is going to want to support the war. We are going to have what we call dissenters, people who are against it, who are going against that public opinion that is growing. During World War I, we're going to have the American Socialist Party that condemns the war effort, a lot of Irish Americans, based off of their own history with Great Britain, don't want to fight on the side of the British. We're going to have immigrants from Germany, Austria-Hungary, who want to support their own native homeland instead of fighting against them. So there's all this tension growing in with the American public. The government wants to stifle any opposition, and so they're going to pass what we call the Espionage and Sedition Acts of 1917. So what this is going to say is that anyone who criticizes the government's war policy or hinders wartime directives could be found guilty and sent into jail. So speaking out against the war, not supporting the war efforts such as rationing, which I'll talk about in a minute, you could be found guilty and sent into jail for this crime. There is going to be pushback against this, saying this is a violation of civil liberties, of our freedom of speech, being able to voice a differing opinion than what the government has. And this is going to come out with, we're going to have a Supreme Court case called Schenck versus the United States. The Supreme Court is going to rule that should an individual's free speech present a clear and present danger to others, the government could impose restrictions and penalties. So if your First Amendment rights of freedom of speech are clear and present danger to the war effort or to other people, the government could enforce the Espionage and Sedition Acts. So in the case of Schenck versus the United States, Schenck was arrested for not following through on the draft. The court ruled that his behavior endangered thousands of American lives and supported his jail sentence. So we have this growing public sentiment in support of the war. We're having government policies saying you can't have, dangerous speech against the war effort. So we are going to see the public turn. We are going to see an increase in hate crimes against German Americans during this time. The war hysteria kind of takes over, and many Americans could not separate between enemies abroad and Germans at home. So German Americans become target of varying levels of crimes, persecution, and resentment. You're going to see children who are beat up on, like at school. You're going to have homes vandalized. One German American is going to be lynched in Illinois, and the people who lynched him are going to be found innocent. You're going to see schools stop teaching German language. Cities are going to stop selling things like pretzels. You're going to start renaming German products like hamburgers, sauerkraut, and frankfurters. Those start to be called Liberty Meat, Liberty Cabbage, and hot dogs. So we have this growing anti-German sentiment going across the country. Another public response we see to the war effort is this thing called victory gardens. So a little context, like as the war is going, we need more materials, more war production. So we're going to establish this shift about don't waste things that could be sent to the war effort. So people are going to create what we call victory gardens, where it's patriotic to grow your own plants, have your own garden, to produce your own food. That way, there's more food available from the larger farms that could be used to send to the soldiers fighting abroad. You're also going to see Americans encouraged to participate in things like Meatless Mondays, Wheatless Wednesdays, doing anything you can to cut down on your consumption. That way, that excess product can go over to help support the war. Daylight savings time is also going to be implemented at this time as a way to try to conserve energy on the home front. Again, anything and everything that could be done to support the war effort is going to be done at this time.